This is the podcast, not an interview. This is a conversation. No gimmicks, just reasons. 84 reasons. Come holler at me. What up, my good people? I am being Truth. This is latest installment of 84 Reasons. No games, no gimmicks, just reasons. Yeah, we knee deep into the season, but people always ask me when it comes to the University of Florida, who is the royal family? Every school has a royal family. Well, the University of Florida, unless you live under a rock, the royal family would be the Jacksons. That would be Willie Sr., Willie Jr., Terry Jackson, and now we got Khalil Jackson there, repping that 22, 7 years in the NFL, won a national championship. I got a chance to fake block him on special teams when we was in the league. I ain't do nothing. The great Terry Jackson. What's going on with you today, TJ?
What's happening, Troop? How you doing there, brother?
Man, I can't call it, man. And listen, I want to stick with that though. I mean, your dad, your brother, now you, your nephew, your sister. Was it always for? I mean, obviously your dad's situation was being the pioneer, breaking that breaking that stereotype, breaking that racial gap. But was it always Florida for you and Willie, or did y'all say I hope to go to Florida, but it just kind of went you guys' way?
My mama went there too. Can't forget about that.
Okay, yeah, Mom Dukes. I'm sorry, Mom Dukes as well. Yeah.
So it was. I mean, obviously being a kid from Gainesville. I mean, that's what you know. On top of all the other things you just referred to, being a kid from Gainesville. I'm Gator through and through. So I was hoping that was the case, but I was, I went to a small school right across the street, PK Young, and played on lower division. So we a lot of times don't get that respect, of other schools. So we are a smaller school. I mean, we're lucky to have 25 on our team, so we were a smaller school, smaller division. And back in those days, the video ain't but so good. And it's really hard to judge, to project somebody, in the competition. So I was actually about a day or two away from signing with Duke. And then, Coach Zook said, Terry, we're going to find something for you. And then I think like a few days before signing day, they found a scholarship for me. And it was, the rest was history.
I mean, Gainesville, Florida. Obviously, that's, Florida runs Gainesville. Florida runs the state of Florida. You talk about Coach Zook, a guy. So you got to play under Coach Zook. I got to play under Coach Zook. But we talk about them dynasty years at Florida. They got started in the 90s with y'all, yourself, Fred T, Mike P, Ike, Riedel, Quan. It's like being on a team that got that many stars. How do y'all keep them egos down? Because they're not, especially now in the NIL world, Terry, how does a team that everybody wants to play, everybody wants their name to be in the Gainesville Sun or the Alligator on campus, how does one Terry Jackson, in the midst of all these stars, y'all keep y'all egos in check for the greater good of the squad?
Well, I think you hit it when you said NIL. I mean, I think that we have fun. Coach Spurrier, he was out there calling plays, having a good time. He was an athlete. He wanted to have fun and playing, just go out there, coach up the game and have fun. We had fun competing. We had fun competing against each other. We wanted to win. We were just out there in practice competing, having a good time, playing the game like we were playing when we were kids. And when you do that, it's just about, it's competitive, friendly competition. We want to whip each other every day. Our practices were harder than the games because we're going against each other. When we got to the game, that was time to have more fun. Put up points, do whatever you do. But so it was a team. We had great leadership from players, coaches, but more so we had players in there who were just, a lot of those guys we had from Miami, they wasn't with a lot of that foolish. I mean, they were some foolishness off the field, but on the field, like those guys just kept a lot of things in check. Whether that was Lawrence, Mark Campbell, and even those older guys, we had Danny Warfel, great, they just were about that business. We were competing with each other, doing everything off the field, on the field, always together. Just everything, competing, having fun. So I think that's the difference in the game. It's become a little bit more business now. And I think even science says once money becomes attached, instead of play, it becomes work. We made that work of working hard become play. So I think that's kind of the difference in the era that we're in now. But I'm not against people getting what they deserve. It has to be a more healthier system that I think takes a long-term view to help these kids.
Your dad being a pioneer, Willie Jackson Sr., being the first black player to ever play at Florida in the '70s. Had you guys ever talked about that? I know a couple of years back I saw they finally recognized him, and well deserved. But there's pressure that your daddy had to deal with. Did you guys ever talk about that? Did he ever say, "Hey man, I'll make sure you guys keep your head on straight"? Because it's one thing that you got Georgia next week. It's another thing when you breaking down barriers when all you want to do is play football.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing he said, obviously, all those things were there. Growing up during those times, it was a much, he had to deal with a lot more. But I think the best thing he said, his teammates were with him. And when your teammates made them feel very comfortable for the most part. Sure, stuff on campus, and when you went to away games, it was more the away games when they got the brunt of it, and then the things that were happening on campus. A big thing happened during their time there with the president of the school, where they had a lock-in or something like that sort. So there were things going on, but trying to keep focus. It's hard enough to play sports with all that other things going on. So those things definitely were tough, but I think the biggest thing he said, their teammates were pretty good about everything. And that was my dad and Leonard George together, because they had each other, and then there was Tommy, who was on the track team, and a few guys, and they were close knit. The few black people who were on campus.
When I think about you, T. Jackman, obviously, me and you go way back. The first time I met you was, we out there running. I'm out there trying not to pass out and look crazy. And I'm like, I look, you was like, come on, Troop. I remember looking, and you was like, come on, Troop, let's go. And I'm looking at you, and I'm like, number one, he is not. If he's not on the squad, Rob Glass, my body do not look like that. But I always remember, you coming back, always having a level head, because the one thing they can't make former players do is come back. They can't make you come back, and you ain't contractually obligated. But you being from Gainesville and knowing, look, man, this is a chance for me to go out here and get a good workout in. What is always important for you, for players like myself, to see, number one, what a professional looks like, but number two, to know, look, man, I'm grinding in the offseason, even though y'all boys trying to figure out which way is up.
Absolutely, because we had that, whether it was my brother coming back. I remember one time Emmett came and ran with us, worked out. When you see older guys who've been there and done that, I think it adds an extra layer of motivation. You say, I could do that. You see people, you size them up, you say, I could do that. I mean, I'm working out with this guy because I'm the same person, and it just gives you that confidence as well. But it gives you, especially when those people feed back into you. I think that's what life is about: feeding back, giving back to those who come behind you to help them reach their goals, whatever that may be, on or off the field. So definitely, most definitely, and I think that's what it's really all about when it comes to the end: bringing up those others who come behind you, and hope they can be better than you as a team and as individuals.
It's New Orleans. It's the national championship. Y'all boys get to do something that most teams would love to do. Oklahoma would love to play Texas in the national championship. Auburn would love to play Alabama in the national championship. But y'all got some get back. And the thing about them boys over there on the panhandle of Florida that will go unnamed, they was on the winning end in the regular season. A lot of things happened between the last game of the season, the SEC championship, ACC championship, Big Ten championship. Now y'all in New Orleans. What was that feeling like, T. Jack? Because the one thing about you very, very mild mannered, but you got in the zone in the net. You got your little dance on. What was that? What was that feeling like, winning the national championship, but who you did it against?
Well, once again, like you said, being a lifelong Gator, I mean, it had never happened before. We knew it was on the precipice, a chance for it to always be. So to be dominant at that time, and to know when I got in, the game was pretty much over at that point. It was like, okay, this is for everybody. We just having a good time. We could do it. Penalty won't matter, whatever it is. It's just like it's time to party. And we were so close the year before. We were the best team in the nation the year before, and got whipped by Nebraska because we weren't, we got a little cocky. I said we got a little cocky. We didn't think that, we thought we were going to run through that game, and that ended up being one of the greatest teams ever we ran up against. But we knew we were there. We put the work in, and when you put the work in, I mean, you got the confidence that it's going to happen. So it was just a matter of time. It was our time, and just enjoying it. Our job was just to enjoy it, and we just was waiting for the game. We knew it was going to happen.
Nowadays, when it comes to the running back position, they want to do it by committee. I mean, you see Florida right now; they got Etienne, they got Montreal. You played with Fred T. I mean, I know Fred. Listen, I know Fred T. is out there now doing this podcast world of the pivot, and him and Channing and Ryan, and Ryan Clark. I played against Fred T. 8 times in the NFL. I never heard Fred T. say a word. Never. What the young Fred T. The blue tights, the bandana, the dark visor. How was Fred T. as a player? I know y'all was boys, but how was he out there between them lines, man?
Fred is there. I was at something, and somebody. I was at one of those little breakfast club workouts today, and somebody, a player he played at LSU, played in the league a bunch of years. He said, "You think Fred gonna make it in the Hall of Fame?" I said, "Absolutely. He definitely. I mean, because when you whether there's God or whoever, somebody, if you're drawing up what a running back should be, he's that guy. He's in the mold of those '80s. Bo Jackson's, he's in that mode. I mean, he's just built for it. To be 6'1", 6'2", 230, with feet like a ballerina, move like I was playing defense when I first got to Florida, and he put him. He doesn't even have to lower his pads to run through you. That's not his kind of mentality. And people, I think he has a certain level of football genius. Like, he's the type of person, right? I couldn't imagine thinking I could score from any time I touch the ball. But when you're that type of guy like Fred, you could touch the ball, you could score anytime. I know I wasn't fit to break 60, 70, 80 every time. I'd probably get you 10, 15, 20, 30 in my mind. But when you're like him, so every run, and a lot of times what happens is, on 3rd and 1, you can't do that. So a lot of times you say, well, he ain't going to hit this hole, but that's not it. This man thinking I can score every time. So there's not a lot of backs in the world, and whoever played who are like that, who probably can do that. So I think this guy, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. Everybody who was in there, guys from LSU, about 5 people just chimed in the conversation. Oh, so ain't a lot better than him. And that's the other pro teams. And I think when you get it from your peers more so, I think that's what really matters. When your peers recognize your greatness or just how hard you worked and the time you put in to become a master of what you did. And I think he has that from his peers and even his teammates. I mean, I recognized it. Yeah, between me, him, and Eli, we used to rotate, because we all had our own little thing we do. But, I mean, I recognize that this man is, my goodness. I remember, it's funny, somebody asked another question. I remember when we were getting recruited in '94, him and Riddell were at the Florida Relays, and I saw him. I saw them too, and we started talking. And I looked at him as a high school and senior, and he had just ran 100 and ran like a 10 something. And I looked at him. I said, "Okay, I see exactly why Spurrier didn't get from me no scholarship. I understand, and I'm okay with it because I don't look like this. I mean, this man is a grown man in a senior in high school and fast." I said, "Okay, I get it," and I didn't even feel bad.
And TJ, even sticking with that, I was, when there are guys that look like high schoolers, like, yeah, they got a couple of muscles, and then you hear about how Fred T looked like in high school. Obviously, small town, them Bell Glade boys, man, them Muck boys, ain't nothing going on, but they burning that soil and they chasing rabbits on the ground. But y'all ended up in the same, in the same locker room. Y'all ended up in the same, meeting room, getting to know the person. Because I think sometimes, we see the talent, we know the talent, but you knew him. What was it like just being there? Because when I was at Florida, it was Ernest Graham, it was Robert Gillespie, then it went to Deshaun Wynn and Seattle Faison. How important is it for running backs to have that? Because y'all do what nobody else does. Y'all get hit more than anybody on the field. Why is it important for them running backs to have a different type of bond? Because y'all kind of got to be the eyes for each other. If one guy's on the field, another guy's not, you can be like, man, next time you go out there, make sure, because they coming down. How is it making sure you guys bond, doesn't become jealous, doesn't become animosity? It stays, I just want to make sure, I'm giving you all I can while you out there.
No, it's a like I said, it's friendly competition. We're competitors. Everybody think they're the best. When you go to Florida in the NFL, everybody think they're the best and you're supposed to get the ball every play. So when the person like I said, we had a rotation. Hey, it's your turn, and you're rooting for the person to be the best. I mean, obviously it's competition. You want to go out there and be the best, but we're trying to win as a team. Like I said, it's fun to win, and it's fun to go out there and compete. We want to be on the winning teams, and I think Fred was just like we all, we just all boys at that time, trying to working towards a goal, competing, and hopefully we all get opportunity to go to the next level, stay healthy, and do those types of things. But there ain't nothing but love and respect for him, Eli, all those guys that came afterwards, when Rob and Ernest came in, and Dazzler McCaslin, and all those guys we played with were great backs and had great careers, and it's all love for everybody you play with.
I mean, speaking of great teams, you go from you literally spent your whole life in Gainesville. I mean, whole life until you're a grown man, and you go from Gainesville, Florida, to the Bay. You go to San Francisco. You talking about Jeff Garcia, T.O., J.J. Stokes, Garrison Hurts. I think you played with Julian Peterson. You played with some. I saw a game to where y'all playing the Giants. They beat y'all like 38 to something, and then all of a sudden they unleashed T.O. What was that? What was that like? Because a lot of times, T-Jack, people think, oh, that's Terry Jackson. He won an championship. What was it like going from Florida to California on a team like San Francisco?
Well, I mean, you probably left out two of the best players ever in football, and Jerry Rice and Steve.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. My fault.
I mean, my goodness, it was a blessing in that, number one, it was at least it was a relatively warm weather state. Although they say San Francisco can be it's very cold actually, but going to sunny California from Florida, I love that. But going to a team that's known for winning was exciting to me. Going with all those like legendary players and people I was playing with on Tecmo Bowl. Younger people may not even know what that is. Tecmo Bowl it was fun. I mean, it was star after star on that team. Bryant Young is greatness. I mean, you had Tim McDonald, Merton Hanks. I mean, Ken Norton Jr. I mean, there was a lot of great players on that team, and you just learn. You learn what greatness is. You learn how to be a pro, I think, more than anything. And I think, that's the 49er way, be a pro. I think that's Jerry Rice, those type of guys who came from those 80s when they were winning all those championships. We had people in the organization like Keenan Turner, Guy McIntyre, Bill Walsh was still around when I was there. So just learning how to be a pro on another level. Is from college is one level. You think you know something, you get to the pros and realize you don't know anything. So being a pro is what you learn from, those guys, T.O., and how they worked. Watch how Jerry Rice worked at 39, 40 years old. I mean, it was unbelievable and probably one of the best life lessons, as a professional sport. Anything and I think that how you work being a pro the 49er way, a player-led team, the leadership that you got from those players, and that leadership could just be more so just how you work. I mean, it was a whole nother level that you could not imagine. Every time you're touching the ball, you're going 30, 40 yards. In the offseason, how you working. Like, you're being a pro. They'll allow autonomy of their players to be their best, to become masters at their craft, and just have a love for the game. So, I mean, it was a beautiful experience.
I mean, one thing about Terry Jackson that the listeners don't know is this man is frugal. This man, he's not cheap. He's frugal. It ain't finna be nothing. People say, I seen Terry Jackson with a chain on. No, he was, This man, have you, because the greatest thing about you and your brother was you boys served as mentors to me. Like, if I caught you T-Jack in the offseason, man, you gonna hit me with some words of wisdom. I mean, Willie caught me at his house way out there in Florida, all in his refrigerator. I know Willie still love with the strawberry ice cream. I ate a couple of cartons when I was at his crib, but the one thing that y'all never told me was, I ain't got time. Y'all never said, not today. I just, now that I got you here, man, I definitely want to tell you I appreciate you, because I think sometimes when you go to Florida or you in the NFL, you think you got to fit a certain persona. You got to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, drive a certain car. Have you always been like that, though, to be able to say, look, I enjoy what I do, but I'm one of them. I'm not them. Have you always had that type of perspective?
Yeah, I think being from Gainesville, a smaller town, going to the school I went to, PK Young, which is a smaller family type school, the pressures of trying to be cool. And I just, having an older brother and my dad and my mom around, just saying, be yourself. Like, just my focus was competing and getting better at whatever it was I'm doing in the classroom, off the field, and that was my focus. The other stuff was just, byproducts. And, I just kind of left it that way. I wasn't worried about, and I tell kids all the time, like, just, you don't got to try to be cool. Just do cool. Be yourself. And that's the coolest thing. Being yourself, enjoying yourself, loving yourself, liking yourself. And then other stuff will, it falls into place.
Swamp Kings was something that came out recently on Netflix. Was rated #1 on Netflix for a couple of weeks. You was actually on that staff, even though you was behind the scenes and with the player personnel. What was those teams like? Because obviously, I know what they were like, but what was it like being able to work with some of those guys, Terry? Understanding that, look, you got some of the biggest players, best players came through Florida. What was that time in Florida like, even though you had your time in the 90s?
Extremely talented group of guys, just like us, very competitive. The culture was one of competing that Urban put in place. I mean, it was all about competing and winning. It was a little bit more business-like in that, time-wise, like I said, with Coach Spurrier, we go, and it was a different time, too. Once we left in the 90s, we didn't have cell phones. So once we left, we were pretty much gone. We were always around those guys in the 2000s, but I mean, they were just as talented as any team. Those teams in the 80s had the talent like that, and that were, who were Hall of Famer type players. And this team had, a slew of them. The recruiting was, nonstop, unbelievable. The attention to detail with everything. It was just a bunch of great players. I think that when those pressures of being so great all the time, and I think that's kind of when things with that team and that organization started to go a little bit awry. But you got to even look at those teams. Imagine if Cam Newton stays there. You talk about 3-4 championships in a row. But I think you got to enjoy it for what it was. You got 2 championships. Anybody who complains about that era of football, if you like, they were great. Ain't nothing else to say. That was a great era of Florida football, basketball. Just a great time to be a Gator in that respect. Yes, you had some off the field things, but think about Florida and Gainesville. Anything that happens, most people are going to know about. There are a lot of teams in this nation with big time football. There's stuff that happens that we never heard about, because those places live, breathe, and die football, and they'll cover up anything. So, not that there weren't certain instances of that in Florida, but because it is so small, most things are going to come out in Gainesville, Florida. So, they were no different than probably a lot of the other big teams, other than they were, like I say, it was great players, on that team, as you saw, and great players who never even got to shine there at Florida, like Cam. But you had Tim Tebow there, who's probably one of the greatest Gators. People, I don't care what you say about, Tim was the consummate football player, the consummate leader. Somebody who just that's what you want. And I think he set the bar so high of what you want as a quarterback if you're a coach, that anything that comes after him is gonna your decision making when you're looking at a quarterback is gonna mess that up, because you're always looking for the qualities of Tim Tebow off the field, just how he worked, how he just cared, and you just have that much passion. I used to look at some of the stuff Tim did out with them 30 carries and be like, "Oh, I don't want that many carries." That's toughness, that's passion, that's desire, and and that's how everybody was on those teams. So. But he set that kind of that precedent. So it was just, like I say, it was some great players, great team, good times.
Talking with Terry Jackson, 7-year NFL pro with them San Francisco 49ers, national champion when his time at the University of Florida. You talk about great teams. There's too many to name with them Florida boys. You talk about Danny Wolver, you talk about Ike Riedel, Quezzy, you talk about John Kerr, talk about Fred Taylor. The list goes on and on and on. But the legacy of the Jackson family, your dad, your brother, yourself, your sister, now your nephew, Khalil. What is it like watching your nephew? I remember when Khalil came out the womb, him and his brothers looking like twins and all that kind of stuff. To see that, when they said He got that Jackson on his back, but he repping that 22. What is it like watching your nephew on Saturdays?
You know, it's a very proud feeling. Like I said, you remember them as babies, and they still babies to you. You know, still my baby. So it's funny and it's awesome that that's what he wanted, and he took a long route to get there, but now he's there and has worked his way up from walk on to getting a scholarship, and that's just putting in work. And to see him out there contributing and having a good time, more importantly, and enjoying it is, that's what any family member would want to see for their youngsters. And I think you just want to continue them to have some team success as well, because that makes a big difference. But as long as he's out there, continue to work, and I just tell him, be a leader, be positive, regardless of what is around you, or what you may hear or see, and just go out there and work, but enjoy it. Enjoy what you're doing, and I think it's very proud to see. Look, I still call him Lily Poo. I say Lily Poo. He was I was on the sideline last week. I said Lily Poo. Make somebody, still call him like that. He just looked at me because he's a very reserved person. He's very laid back, almost to the point of like, come on, guy, you really see? And I think that's people like him. Like, he's just so laid back. So it's just fun to see him out there, getting hype and having a good time and enjoying himself. So.
I know Willie is the head coach of PK Young right now, man. I got to get this joker on here just to tell him congratulations. That's got to be crazy. Your alma mater, now you the head coach there, PK Young. You talked about Khalil. I talked about your dad, your mom, your sister. When you look back on it, because, Terry, sometimes when you hear everything you've done, when you hear, hey, national championship, 7 years in the league, I got to go to Florida, I was able to. What would a 18-year, what would a mid 40-something-year-old Terry Jackson say to his 18-year-old self at PK Young, getting ready to go, across, a couple of miles down the road to University of Florida? What would you say to yourself?
That's a very good question. Like I said, I had a very enjoyable time at each stop. I think just continue to, your network. Never allow your network to go stale. Continue to talk. And I'm very sociable in that respect, but just continue to build relationships from a business standpoint. Be very selective about who you choose to do business with. I think it's probably the biggest thing, who you choose to do business with, and take your time in those situations. Have, mentors, have advisors that are long term in place, and just vet everything to the millionth extent. Just vet everything, relationships, business wise, and can just continue to enjoy. Always continue to have a good time in everything that you do.
He is Terry Jackson. 7-year NFL vet with them 49ers. National championship with the University of Florida. PK Young, Blue Wave, alumni. Now, hey man, Terry's doing the husband thing, doing the daddy thing, doing the business thing. But only, and Terry no longer has that gray Tahoe. His wife said, it got to go, Terry. Terry didn't want to let it go. But I know that's how long I've known Terry. But listen, I am being true. This is 84 Reasons No Games Don't Get T-Jack, man. I appreciate you taking the time, man. We're going to get together here soon, sir.
That's nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me, man. Had a great time. You keep up the great work. I'm proud of you and the man you've become. And, man, keep riding to the stars, baby.
Hey, man, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. He is Terry Jackson. I am being true, man. 84 Reasons No Games, No Gimmicks. If you ain't a Gator, it don't matter no way. And we out of here.